And perhaps no one in our country is watching the developments as much as Ukrainians here in the United States. That includes those living right here in central North Carolina. The local Ukrainian community is uniting in its support of their native country, raising money to send needed supplies as Russia sits with more than 100,000 troops at the border.
I've been in conversation with friends in Ukraine every day, and I sense a change.
Until recently, Oleg Volovina says Ukrainians thought the rest of the world was more worried about Russia than they were. Not anymore.
Now there is a strong movement of civil defense, of preparedness, that you have civilians and people that served in the army getting training again, shooting ranges, all kinds of training. So people are fairly calm, but they are getting ready.
Volovina has spent his career as a demographic and socioeconomic researcher and has spent time with the Ukrainian military. He says Vladimir Putin does not want Ukraine to become a member of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, as that would mean NATO would be bound to defend Ukraine.
History tells us that everything the Russians say that will do is not true. Every treaty they have signed, they broke it. In other words, the only way to deal with them is by force.
But he says that force does not have to include military action. Sanctions that include the sale of oil and gas would be crippling, and so would freezing Russian bank accounts around the world, as we've done with other countries.
Well, the case of Iran is a classic example. If adequate sanctions are implemented, it is effective, and it worked. It can work here also.
But there is even more at stake.
When people say, why should the United States defend Ukraine? It's not Ukraine. You're defending the whole system of democracy that the United States has and is the leader of. And you're running the risk of losing that position if you're perceived as a weak country.
And Volovina says he would not count on Putin's word.
If you give me $1 for every promise the Russians made, I'll be a millionaire.
So the other factor he talks about, he really worries about, is the China factor, in that if the United States is not strong against Russia today, what this means for China if they choose to do something similar to this in the future.
And there's something going on this weekend as well, right?
That's right. There's another organized event happening this Saturday. It's at noon downtown. That'll be the Ukrainian community that's local, as well as the Polish community joining them as well.
All right, Russ, thanks.
Yeah. Well, right now we want to know what your input is on the